Hey, welcome back. So today we're diving straight into a brand new market explainer, unpacking the latest intel from Polymer Bazaar. We're looking closely at the EVA, that's ethylene vinyl acetate, weekly report and future trend for the fourth week of July 2026. Now, if you're navigating the petrochemical markets, you already know how absolutely crucial, timely, accurate data is to your bottom line, right? So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it and see what's actually moving the market this week.
Polymer Bazaar's core mission is pretty simple, empowering your petrochemical purchasing decisions. And in this explainer, we're going to take all that complex global market data and literally translate it into clear, actionable intelligence, stuff you can actually use right now to protect your margins and make really smart buying choices this week.
All right, so here's our agenda for today. First, we'll look at the global market context. 2, China's market dynamics. 3, instant AI updates. 4, Indian Bazaar highlights. And finally, number 5, we'll wrap up with a strategic purchase recommendation.
Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, Global Market Context, looking specifically at US and Europe trends. It is honestly so fascinating to look at the tension happening in Western markets right now. So in the US Bazaar, specifically FAS Houston, demand is undeniably dull, right? Yet overall prices are actually being pushed up. Why? Because of higher production costs. But then you look over at the Europe Bazaar, where demand is equally weak and supplies are stable, but the pricing behavior is entirely different. Over there, even with higher upstream ethylene prices, low-grade EVA actually gains slightly, while the medium and high grades move downward. It really shows how differing production costs and those specific grade variations can cause a massive price divergence, even when, nobody's aggressively buying.
Moving on to Section 2, China's market dynamics, focusing on photovoltaics and shortages.
So shifting our focus east, there's a very specific set of localized pressures really squeezing the Chinese market right now. The photovoltaic sector is stepping up big time, providing this sort of isolated pillar of demand support. But outside of that, it's sluggish. Offtake from other sectors just isn't there. And compounding this weak demand, we're seeing rising feedstock costs. Plus, domestic supply has tightened considerably due to some recent plant shutdowns. It's a classic squeeze situation, Isolated demand keeping things afloat while the broader supply chain contracts.
RMB 10,000 per metric ton. That is the current spot price right now in the China Bazaar. It's a pretty stark figure that really anchors the current Asian price floor. Because when supply tightens and those feedstock costs rise, this 10,000 RMB mark is the reality on the ground, and that eventually ripples outward to the rest of the continent.
Next up, Section 3, Instant AI Updates, and how this is your market advantage.
Now, what's really interesting here is how surprisingly simple it is to stay ahead of the curve without waiting around for those weekly emails to hit your inbox. Literally just 3 steps. Step 1, save +91 93746 24365 to your phone contacts. Step 2, send a quick WhatsApp message with just the letters PP. And Step 3, get instant AI-powered updates back in just 5 seconds. It's just a brilliant way to leverage AI to get rapid market intelligence directly on your phone, especially when you're on the move.
All right, diving into Section 4, Indian Bazaar highlights, looking at pricing and pulse.
Now, to really understand what's happening with local retail, we have to look at imports first. The latest overseas offers for EVA 18% have been assessed higher. We're talking ranging between USD 1370 to 1380 per metric ton CIF Navasheva, and that's specifically for August deliveries. That upward trajectory in overseas offers, that's a massive leading indicator for what is about to happen locally.
So breaking that down geographically for spot prices on imported EVA 18% grades, and this is excluding GST by the way, just notice the tight regional variations here. Mundra sits at 141 to 142 rupees per kg, Bhiwandi edges up a bit to 142 to 143, and then Delhi hits that 144 to 145 range. It's a really great snapshot of how freight and localized demand create these very specific regional price tiers.
But here is the absolutely crucial point. Despite those rising import costs we just talked about, the actual pulse of local purchases remains incredibly weak. Finished product sales simply haven't improved, which means converters are absolutely not keen on building up their inventories right now. Furthermore, there are zero shortages, like none. There are perfectly adequate stocks sitting in the retail bazaars today. And this dynamic is actively preventing any sort of panic buying. It creates this real tug-of-war between rising upstream costs and just really sluggish downstream sentiment.
And that brings us to Section 5, our strategic purchase recommendation, the bottom line.
Okay, so there is a highly probable chain reaction mapping out right now that you really need to be aware of. First, higher global crude oil prices are likely to pull up ethylene prices. Second, this upstream pressure will inevitably push those overseas offers even higher than the $1,380 we're already seeing, and consequently, local traders are fully expected to start quoting higher retail prices in the very near future just to protect their replacement costs.
Which leads us directly to this definitive conclusion from Polymer Bazaar. Therefore, we advise buying at ruling prices. Because of that impending chain reaction we just looked at, the urgency to secure your material at today's rates is incredibly high. If you need material for the upcoming weeks, the data strongly suggests locking it in right now, before those ethylene hikes fully hit the retail bazaar.
So, to maximize your market edge moving forward, make sure to subscribe to Polymer Bazaar on YouTube, hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. And hey, if you're looking for direct polypropylene buying and selling leads, you can reach out to their relationship manager directly at +91 93139 24356. I'm going to leave you with a provocative thought to consider today. Based on those supply squeezes in China and the upstream crude pressures we just unpacked together, are you positioned to profit before the next ethylene price hike? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and we'll see you next time.